Hello, everybody. We are back again on a Tuesday evening on Knowledge is Power podcast live along with my co-host, Francis Larkin. Tonight, we've got some special guests that's backstage waiting to bust on the scene. But let us tell you about a little bit about Knowledge is Power podcast live. And Francis, why don't you tell them?
Sure, Knowledge is Power Podcast Live is a platform to share important information by educating Southeast Texas African American communities with valuable information on health, education, financial wellness, politics, and business.
Oh, great. And Knowledge is Power Podcast Live is now on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google Play, and along with Facebook. So if you're around, check us out at Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. We've got great guests coming aboard, and we'll be right back
Yes, we do.
Welcome to Knowledge is Power Podcast Live with your host, Tony Redfro, and my co-hosts, LaDonna Sherwood and Francis Larkins.
Knowledge is Power Podcast Live starts now.
All right, our guest tonight is the greatest coach out of Southeast Texas, Port Arthur Lincoln High School, Bumblebee, the legendary head coach, Joe Washington Sr. And Joe Jr., little Joe. How are you, Joe? How are all the Washington guys? And Kenny Washington as well. And Arthur Lee, a good family member of the Washington family, is joining us tonight. Coach, tell everybody in Port Arthur and the Golden Triangle hello.
Hello, everybody. Miss you guys. I can't wait until this over with so I can get down there and get back with my friends and reminisce a little bit.
Yeah, Coach, you still think you can coach a little bit, huh?
Coaching is it's about over.
Yeah. Yeah, the game has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, not a little bit, but quite a bit. But Coach, you know you were one of the last living head coach from the old Purview League, and you were born and raised in Rosenberg. And I was reading the book, and those who have not read the book, The Thursday Night Lights, they need to pick up that book and read about the history of the Black African American schools and athletes that came through the Prairie View League. So, Coach, tell me, and I read that in the book that you were self-taught. How did you do that?
I was what?
You were self-taught. You taught yourself the game of football.
Well, being born in the 20s in a small town, you're not available to coaching and those things. So we played a lot of sandlot football, and I think that's what I was referring to.
Well, you know, Coach, you after you come from the Army, you was coaching also in the Army as well, right? You was playing the football in the Army as well, right? In Hawaii.
Right. I played Air Force football, and it was amazing. A little man coming from a sandlot league and making an Air Force team with all those officers. It was really a miracle.
And from there you went on to Prairie View.
Correct.
And from Prairie View you went to Bay City.
Bay City, yes.
Bay City. I know it was a struggle. I know back then in those days that I read about that you didn't even have a gym to the guys to even dress. They had to dress in the classroom before they go to a ball game. I mean, Coach, it was in the book. It was in the book.
Well, things were different. You didn't have much finances back in those days for the small town schools, especially black schools.
Yeah, I know. And being around football all my life as a child, my uncle was a football official, and his friends was all coaches and officials. So I was around in the late 50s and 60s, and watched a lot of that, experienced it, and watched a lot of that. And it's that the equipment was lacking, the facilities was poor, but you managed to organize. You had organized football.
Yes, and one of my biggest aims and objectives was to furnish my young men with equipment that they could be proud of. And I would like to say that Bay City Hilliard, although it started out very meager, but we wound up one of the better programs for Class A school, black school in that area.
And from Bay City, now we're about to get real good in this conversation. Now, from Bay City, you were there almost 10 years, right?
12 years. 12 years.
12 years, right. But in 1965, you moved to Port Arthur. What made you move to Port Arthur?
Long story. Yeah. Immigration was on our heels. And a young man who wanted to be a head coach, I felt that my chances of being head coach at Bay City High School was nil and none. So I took the opportunity that came along going to Port Arthur to become the head coach. It was a heck of a challenge, though.
I bet it was, because when you come to Port Arthur in 1965, you was about to face some of the toughest competition in the state of Texas.
And coming from a 2A situation where the staff was not nearly comparable to that 5A situation. You're absolutely right. It was a challenge.
Right. Now, I'm like little Joe, you're a little bit older than I am, but I was around just like you was, with footballs running down the tower with a towel on the sideline. Do you remember back then when they had more whites at our games than blacks, and we sit on one? All of us sat on one. Two teams sat on one side. The blacks sat on one side, and the whites sat on the other side.
Well, you know what? I remember, going to Port Arthur when all of that, when desegregation started, and we started, integrating, the playing of the teams. But I tell you what, when we play those teams, our stands were pretty loaded too. I don't remember them not being full on our side. I really don't.
Right, but Coach, the challenge that you had to go against the greats of Bubba Smith and Coach Ray Smith coaching, and the great Ozan from Hebert. Man, that was a high, tall hill to climb.
Yeah, and Galveston Ball wasn't bad either.
That was Galveston Central. You remember back in the 60s?
Right. Central, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right, they wasn't nothing to play with either.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was murderous, no doubt about it.
So
but we were very fortunate.
Francis?
Oh yeah, I'm sitting here processing it all. I've seen so much greatness and rich in history right before my eyes. I was just wondering, what was the greatest challenge? I can imagine there being a ton of challenges, not just in competition for that position, but also just with the desegregation and all the adversities like your players had to face. I see movies all the time, and I'm sure that movies like the Titans and things of that sort does not really give a wide or an exact idea of what you were experiencing. So can you speak to that a little bit, with your players being that of African American and playing someplace like Port Arthur or Port Neches, Port Neches Indians or Port Neches Groves? How was that experience for you guys?
Well, fortunately, while I was in Bay City, we scheduled teams that were bigger schools, a lot of schools from the Houston area, San Antonio. So the scheduling of schools wasn't a big problem. The team in itself was not my problem. It was the organization, the coaching situation that was the biggest challenge to me. I was accustomed to competition, young lady, because we played many of the largest schools in the area. As a matter of fact, my last year at JC, we played a team out of the Port Arthur district, Lamar. We beat them 2A school with we beat them 24-6. So,
Wow.
and then we went into Port Arthur with that kind of experience. So what I'm trying to say is the team was not frightful. It was the other situation that was frightful, all the organization that we had to face.
Right.
So when you arrived in Port Arthur in '66, that was a big difference in the you had a gym at the school and you've had some of the facilities that you needed. But how was it like when you first come to Port Arthur?
It was a nightmare. My first day on the job in Port Arthur was June 22nd, the summer, June 22nd. Now that was frightful. In a couple of months, you were going to have to organize and be playing football. That was my problem. And plus, I had to pull you see those two young men behind you, Joe and Ken. That was a problem. Leaving Bay City, they're blue and white.
Yeah.
They were not ready to look at any purple and gold. All their young lives, they were looking to play for Hilliard High School.
I can imagine. I could imagine. Hey, Kenny, not Kenny, but little Joe. I was reading in the you and I are in the same time, same era.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading in the Thursday Night Lights about you playing little league football. I mean, not middle school football, and your dad had never seen you play because he was so busy coaching the high school.
Right.
And the coach was telling him, he said, "Hey, this is the baddest kid we got on the team," you know. So, how was it like, you know, knowing that you want to play for your dad, and at that time you were still in middle school, and coach, when did you recognize that little Joe was a athlete?
Well,
go ahead, Coach.
I thought it was directed to me. I had been watching my boys in Bay City play sandlot football. And whenever the kids were gathering around, Joe and Ken were the first kids they would choose. And most of the boys were bigger. So I was aware of their ability. But playing high school football was something I just looked forward to. The thought never entered my mind as whether or not they would be able to compete. Never entered my mind.
How did you feel, little Joe, at that time when you was in the ninth grade? When you moved from the eighth grade to the ninth grade and started playing with the varsity?
Well. First of all, Kim and I, you know, like Dad said, you know, we played with the bigger kids all the time, and I don't think we ever even considered whether we were good or not. All we wanted to do was play. and we felt, you know, that, you know, we obviously, you know, we're good enough to play because they were always choosing us to play, and shucks, and we were out there. So I think both of us, once we, you know, the key thing that both of us wanted to do more than anything else is play together and play for Dad. And that was the one thing that, you know, we were always looking forward to. So the minute I hit Lincoln, you know, from the middle school, that was my intention. I didn't, you know, I was going to get on that varsity some kind of way. If I had to blow up all the running backs' legs or whatever, I was going to get on. I was going to be playing some kind of way. You know what I mean? Hey, because, you know, that's what I wanted to do. And,
right.
You know, we were both, you know, fortunate enough to, Kim and I, to, you know, get that opportunity early. And it was, for the most part, something that, you know, we kind of expected.
Yeah.
Let me interject something here right quickly. Ellis Wise was the reason for the season. I've never wanted to project my boys as a football coach. I've watched other fathers and sons on teams, how they talked of them. I never want to be one of those kind of coaches who would put my kids above the other kids. But Ellis Wise came to me and said, "Look, Coach, you need to get Joe your son. Well, I knew Joe was an athlete, but I was not going to be the one to pick him out. But you know what I'm trying to say? I didn't want people to think that I'm favoring my kids. I've
Right.
always taken the low road when it came to my boys in athletics.
Yeah.
But that's why I say, look, coach, you need to take him. So there's no point in he staying down here with us.
Right, right. So, the Joe. Now, I remember in your freshman year, you played wide receiver, right?
Right.
Yeah. Starting off. Yeah. Hmm.
And now, Kenny, you were still in junior high school, middle school.
I
You were
was
just
a
in
trainer.
seventh grade. You were still green. But that's okay. But you did come when you came on the scene. You guys came in, and it was a 5-year run. When
Well,
you guys,
I always try and take the credit that I got them ready for me.
oh, okay, okay, the savior.
Yeah.
But
Well, hey, you all laughing, but I'm gonna tell you, he really was the savior. Because let me tell you something. When this rascal got there, hey, they went on a tear. They never lost a district game the whole 3 years he was there.
right,
They can laugh and all that stuff. That yeah, I got them playing. I ran for you, but this rascal here, hey, he kept them from losing. I'm telling you,
yeah.
it
Well,
was
Kenny,
a pleasure to watch.
yeah, Kenny was more of a game management here on the field. Hi, Coach.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he,
No, that ain't all up. He was the sorest loser I'd ever seen in my life. Hey, let me tell you, this boy, you talking about competitive? I have never seen a person as competitive as he is. I was competitive, and I could kind of handle it, but this guy here, I'm talking about somebody that just refused to lose at anything and lose games. I'm just telling you, that's how he was.
Where do you think you picked up that competitive spirit from, Mr. Ken? Where do you feel that came from?
Well, I think most of it came from the fact that I've watched my father coach and how fiery he would get on the sideline. The other part is that I had the pleasure of always tagging along with my brother. And so I would see that he would do so well. And, I didn't want to go home and have to get into bed and have to think about that I didn't do anything very well.
Pressure was on.
The biggest thing is that it was more than anything, it was fun. Yeah, winning is fun, but playing is more fun than not getting to play and losing. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying is that it's just the idea that I was playing. And as Joe was saying, I mean, we used to sit up every night and talk about playing together and what that meant as far as we were concerned and playing for my dad. But I always kind of measured myself a little bit to Joe because Joe was very good. And he let me tag along with him. So I didn't want to disappoint him. So when we would play, I wanted to play as hard as I could. And I didn't want to lose.
Hey, but let me tell you one thing that always the kids and I think we realized that we did have some skills and talents, but the kids, when you playing with kids, the one thing you can always say, they're going to be honest about who has skills and who doesn't have skills. You get away from the adults and the parents and everything, and it's just you out there. You know who's who and who's this and who's that. And they would never play if Kim and I were playing on the same side together. So we were always, for the most part, paired against each other and have to compete. And I hate that. I said, "Oh no, I got to play against him again." And that's just how it was most of the time. But I tell you what, when we finally did get together with Dad at Lincoln, let me tell you, it was unbelievable.
It was.
It wasn't anywhere. I mean, it was most unbelievable thing that But hey, everything else for me at that point, when we got a chance to play together, after that, everything was just icing on the cake.
Yeah, it was a one hell of a run because let me tell you something. when I watched you play because I couldn't watch you too much because when y'all played, we played. But when I did get a chance to see you play, it was amazing. You know, we would all go out and look for number 24. But I got to thinking, I said, boy, you know, number 24 run like Lynn, the Baltimore Colts. I can't think.
More.
That's right, Lenny Moore.
Yeah.
And you look just like Lenny Moore, but you weren't in blue and white. So my question is, how did you guys come up and decide those numbers? You was 19 and you was 24. How do you was that part of something I was thinking about?
Absolutely, huh, Kim?
Yeah.
Well, Kim was number 19 because of Johnny Unitas.
Oh, he was the Black Johnny Unitas.
Yes. Hey, let me tell you what. He was definitely the Black Johnny Unitas. I'm telling you. Hey, that's how he could. Hey, that's how he handled himself in the huddle, at practice, during the game. I'm telling you. Hey, he was the Black Johnny Unitas.
Hey, you know what's so funny, Joe? Little Joe, is that when Kenny played, he looked like, and he played like he was 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
Seriously. Until I stood on the side of him. This guy ain't no more than 5'9". You know?
Hey, but look, here's the killer thing. You know, when you say, you know, he played like he was 6'5", 6'4",
right?
I mean, his presence on the field was like he was big. Because when Dad was sending the plays in, Kim didn't get to the huddle. The huddle was about 3 or 4 yards from where he was standing. He'd stand back away from the huddle so everybody could see that he's waiting for the play to come with his hands on his hip.
Right.
Hey, and hey, look, when the kid would come in to, you know, give him the play, Kim would act like he wasn't even there. You know what I mean? The kid would just come and tell him what he had to call, and he'd step into the huddle and tell everybody to be quiet and play, man.
I saw it with my own eyes. And I watched him play. I said, boy, look how smooth he is, and how he stands behind the huddle waiting on the play to come in, and he walks up to the huddle and get down there.
Yeah.
Said, oh, look here. And then Joe.
Tony, I had good teachers, man.
and then Joe.
Bay City, quarterback named Ronnie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And then the time I got to Port Arthur, there was Larry Green and there was Leonard Iceman King. So, you know, those guys was a big influence on me, and they were the king of cool when I saw them play. You know, they exemplified what a leader and a good quarterback, in my eyes, especially in high school, what I thought they should be as far as teams that my father coached.
Well, you know, one night you all came to Beaumont, Texas. You know, that's a hard place to come and play. You know, either you're playing the Charlton Pollard Bulldogs or the Hebert Panthers. Great athletes, but let me tell you something. I saw a team study you guys morning, noon, and night. Watch the films morning, noon, and night, 6 days a week. They was gonna kill the Bumblebees. And that Saturday night, little Joe made honey around the goalpost.
I never heard that one before.
We had 4 touchdowns for halftime.
Wow.
But that was, I think that was your senior year.
Yeah, my senior year against Charlton.
Right. Yeah. And the week before that, you ran over by Hebert. So, you know, y'all dominated that year. And Kenny,
I tell you what, you know, that game, and Kim will tell you, we had a pregame talk from a certain person over there that we all know and love, my namesake. Let me tell you something. I can't remember one word he said, but I tell you what, everything he said that night, we were fired up. That was one of his best. I wish we could have taken that one. I'm telling you. Yeah. Kim, you remember that?
Yeah, whenever we talk to teammates from that team, they talk about, man, you remember we were playing Charles Paul. He said, Coach Watson started talking about what we gonna do. He said, man, by the time we got ready, I wanted to run through that door and kill somebody. I mean, it was like he said, you're gonna go. It wasn't in a calm, but you're gonna go and play the best football you ever played. And I think that at that point, we against Charlton was probably our best game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of y'all best games, because I've seen you guys run right on through the league here in this area. But I'm gonna go back to we're gonna come back to that conversation because I want to let folks know that's the younger people that's watching and those that's gonna watch the show, because between the next 10 days we'll have maybe 20,000 people to watch this show. But I want the young kids and those young men that's growing up to understand that and know that Joe Washington Jr. was an All-American running back for the Oklahoma University. University of Oklahoma. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Ken went to North Texas State, and Ken has in the last year was inducted into the Texas Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, it just didn't start right there on the streets of Port Arthur. These guys has taken it to 2 or 3 levels up. So, Coach, I want to ask you something because it's very important. I want to ask this because not important, but I want to talk about integration.
Mhm.
The integration really, and I know for a fact it did. Integration changed the game.
Yes, it did. But let me paraphrase this though. I was not a advocate of integration. I
Mhm.
like the preview interslash league. I like playing in the black league. But time changes things, so I had no control over that. Integration had its opportunities, and integration had its deficiencies. So yes, and to answer your question, integration did change the game of football. Absolutely.
And it changed the makeshift of the black schools. It took the good teachers and coaches away and moved them. It took kids away and moved them to white schools that those kids didn't have a clue what they was doing and what they was doing over there. So coaching with being around so long, the coaching skills was different than it was at an integrated school. They taught technique. Hey, Coach, I know you guys looked at talent.
Yeah, you have a point there. Although integration elements was there, and there are many pluses with the integration. But the black coaches were not only barking at kids about their physical activity on the field, they wanted those kids to do what their mama wanted them to do. Those were one of our main elements. Every district that I was in the black school, all the coaches felt the same. They were more concerned about those kids doing what mama and papa wanted them to do. Not saying that the other coaches across town were not of the same caliber, but we had other things on our mind, and simply could have been because the limitation of our coaching could have forced us to go in routes of that sort that make us more concerned about the individual themselves.
I grew up with Coach Willie Ray Smith and his boys, and and I can imagine what it was like coaching with your sons. I was probably one of the best 6 years of your life right there, coaching your sons.
Absolutely. And of course, you get to the point, though, that your son, just like the other kids, you treat them all the same, but in your heart, there's a different feeling. So you
Yeah, no.
no doubt about it. You're right about that. But you try not to show I try not to show any favoritism toward my kids. But
Oh, he did. He did a good
though.
job of that.
He did.
Yeah, he did a good job of
Well,
that.
let me ask you, Coach. Did you put the pedal? Did you put the pedal on him?
No, he didn't. He
I
didn't do
didn't
that.
have to.
No.
I didn't have to.
You didn't have to.
No, I didn't. I let the other coaches take care of me.
And you know what the other thing you do? You bring it home and tell our mother.
He was the one that that welded the belt. That is for sure. That's how I worked on my moves and stiff arm for mom. She's swinging that belt and she said, "Don't you run from me!" And I'm stiff arm and I'm jumping and turning. Oh shoot, man. That was a workout.
Hey, so you probably had to tape up your ankles on that one, huh?
Hey, I did.
But Joe, listen, let's talk about your career, little Joe. You were an All-American running back out of actually you was an All-State running back out of high school and became an All-American running back out of Oklahoma. What it was like leaving from a high school, a 4A high school, and going to a major college and playing collegiate football for Oklahoma Sooners?
Well, I'd have to say, I think my childhood, my relationship with my brother, my father, being able to play in a big, 4A situation, I think, all of that, prepared me to, to get to that particular point. Kim and I, we were never, afraid to work hard, and we did. And, one thing my parents always expressed to us, and especially Dad, is that, hey, don't let anybody outwork you. That's what he'd always tell you. And I think, that helped a lot of things. It helped a lot of things.
If I may interject, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
If I may interject, I was reading, and internet can give you falsified information, but I read that Oklahoma was not your first choice.
No, it wasn't. I initially was thinking about going to LSU.
And can you tell us why?
I was thinking about going to LSU because, well, okay, number one, it was purple and gold like Lincoln.
No.
That's not number one.
Number two, they played their games at night. And number three, they had grass.
Oh, very.
And that was, I was really concerned about going to a school that had artificial turf. Seeing that I'd played on grass all my life. Okay. So I was really concerned about that. So with that, and it was close, and I knew my parents, and family would get a chance to, see me play. So all of those reasons, and they assured me that, I supposedly wanted to, go to dental school. So they had a, pretty good dental school. So I was thinking along those particular lines. But luckily for me, it didn't work out.
So Oklahoma was the right choice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Absolutely.
But Joe, you made your mark at Oklahoma. I tell you something. You can YouTube. I love to go back and look at those highlights on YouTube. You running. Now you was voted second for Heisman.
I was third one year and fifth one year. We were on probation. We weren't on television. Running in the wishbone, it kind of limits, your, output. Plus, the teams I played on was so good that, we were through finished playing by
at halftime.
Halftime. So, you weren't going to, put up any stats, but, we have some very good teams. We won a lot of football games.
You sure did. And Kenny, you went to North Texas State, the Mean Green, and you played quarterback at the Mean Green. How was that experience?
It was different in the regards of when you say you left a historically black high school and you go to an integrated college. especially then because there was a lot of black quarterbacks playing in what they consider Division I schools. So that was a little bit new, and that was a little bit challenged. Most schools wanted you to play different positions, and one of the reasons that I actually went to North Texas was I really wanted to go to Oklahoma. I played with my brother. That was the hardest decision to make, but there were other schools that I considered, but North Texas at that time had Hayden Fry as the coach, and Hayden Fry was known to be African American friendly, so to speak, in regards to him recruiting black athletes. And plus, his offense was built upon throwing the football more than running. And so I wanted to be a passing quarterback. And most all other schools ran the veers and they ran the wishbone. So that limited to where I wanted to do. And I knew for me to be successful, I needed to go somewhere where it actually utilized my skills and not have to adapt my skills to an offense that wasn't for me. So that's why North Texas, and it took us a year, but after that we had 3 successful seasons and ended up 16th in the nation.
Wow.
So I'm gonna go back to my gold coach here. Coach, now you watched. Did you take the movie Tone playbook with you to Port Arthur and your offense ran out of the movie Tone?
Did I take? Repeat that again.
The offense that you ran. The offense that you ran. It wasn't from the movie Tone playbook, was it?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Of course, as the years passed, we took away some of our offense, but basically, the first year certainly was the offense that I ran in in Bay City at Port Arthur with major and minor adjustments.
Yeah. Now, did you have to change that offense when Lil Joe started playing running back?
When you say change the offense,
you changed it to gear to more to because you had a great running back.
Yes, and my offense was always built on a great running back because I've had decent running back at Bay City. We had some pretty nice little running back, and
I watched it. Me and Kim watched them all. They were pretty doggone good too. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we made sure that. Let me say one thing about Ken going to North Texas and the desire to go to OU. I was so glad that he didn't go to OU because Ken was not a wishbone quarterback. He was a pro back. He's a pro quarterback. He's a passer. He could throw the ball. He never would have been able to utilize his abilities having gone to Oklahoma. And then plus, his mother told them, wherever you go, son, go where we can come to see you guys play. I think that's stuck in their craw.
It seems that academia had a lot to do with you all as well, Coach. I was reading that you obtained your master's degree way back when, so I'm not surprised that you're, of course, being that it's football, you want to continue to go on to higher education. But how was academia valued in your household?
It did. It did, yes. Of course, and I told them if I had to pay their way, it was going to Prairie View. But because I had the ability to pick and choose, I couldn't take those options away from them.
Okay.
Well, if we're talking about football and you're at the barbershop or you're around some of your old friends and you sit around talking and you just sit around talking and sit in the garage talking, and one of the conversations that comes out is football, high school football, and in the Golden Triangle. And one of the things they will always say, who was the greatest running back to ever come out of Port Arthur? And it's always Lil Joe. And Lil Joe, you were one of the best. But they always compare Lil Joe to one of the greatest running back to come out of Beaumont. And that was Ray Smith Jr.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm sure you heard that before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
he went to Kansas
Right.
and played with Gale Sayers. They say they tell me the story is that he showed Gale Sayers how to cut, and Gale Sayers was one of my favorites of all time. And I went to Kansas. Only reason I even visited Kansas was because Gale Sayers went there, and I could get some film of Gale Sayers.
Right.
So I got the film of Gale Sayers, and I watched it, and I saw this other back who was wearing this huge knee brace. You could tell, that he was restricted, but you could tell that this guy could run. And I didn't know it was Willie Way Jr. because I'd heard all about him, but I got a chance to see him play. And let me tell you something. Hey, he was special.
Yes, he was.
Definitely special. Yes, indeed.
And you should,
was
and Joe, you should have seen him when he played without the knee brace before he was injured.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can imagine.
He was awesome.
How did he hurt?
So
where did he hurt his knee?
in Marshall High School game, they played Marshall, and it was in a ball game. And they played Marshall, and they jumped on his knees, and that's how he hurt his knee. And I think it's his junior year or senior year. I can't remember, but that's how he hurt his knees.
Gee, well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, he was something, and I could I could tell that, just from, his running, even with the knee brace on. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw of him. He could go. Yeah.
Yeah. But Coach, you've seen so many. Who do you think was one of the greatest football player to come out of this area, besides your two sons?
Yeah, because let me say this. I tried to go on the low road and saying that. But when Joe went to Baltimore, and I'm going to answer your question. When Joe went to Baltimore, the sports writer called me and we talked about it. I said, listen, young man, I said, Baltimore is getting one of the best football players in the league. He can do it all. Block, he can tackle, he can run. He was an all-around football player. So that's my feelings. I would say that Joe was a hell of a football player. But it's difficult for me as a coach to coach so many young kids to just come out and say, my boy is the best football player at that time. But Joe Washington was a hell of a football player, mister, and no ifs, ands, buts about it. Now, to answer your question, there were a lot of great football players that came out of the Beaumont area. So many of them difficult for me to even try to point out. Yes. You just almost have to look at what they accomplished to try to use it as a gauge. You see what I'm talking about? Look at what they accomplished. Because I played against one that came out of Port Arthur. He went to Bishop. I thought he was a good football player, but he didn't last. I can't think of the young man's name. I've been carrying his name around in my head for a long time. But he played football for Port Arthur in the 50s. Won championship for Port Arthur. But it's really difficult for me to say. Everybody thinks that the young man that played in Minnesota was one of the greatest that.
Was it Smiley?
No, the big lineman who played in Minnesota, a Brown.
Yeah, you did have a lineman that played for Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs, right?
What was his name?
Kansas City Chiefs. I said Minnesota, but I think
the Kansas City Chiefs.
Aaron Brown.
Aaron Brown.
Yeah, Aaron Brown. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there were other football players across the track. I understand there were pretty good football players in the area.
Yeah. Well, Coach, this was something special I wanted to do because I wanted the Golden Triangle to know you're here and how we appreciate you during your time at Lincoln. And I think that's from 65 to 95, right?
Right, 30 years.
years, and tell you, you've seen some
Jeez.
football games, you've seen some kids that was waving or going the wrong way, and you brought them back the right way. And it's so much that we would like to thank you so much for what you have done for the city of Port Arthur and the Golden Triangle as well, because we all know you guys. You know, we talk like we know you, like we we live next door to each other. But you guys was y'all had a 5-6 year turn there. It was like a Super Bowl run when you come through here
Yeah.
in the Golden Triangle. Not just in the Golden Triangle, but we had to go to Houston and play those teams like Yates and Worthing and Wheatley and
Yeah.
G. Watched, you know. So I've been. It was competition every weekend in the Golden Triangle.
I'll tell you one thing though, Tony. Had it not been for that old thing called injury, Port Arthur Lincoln would have had a pretty more glamorous.
Right. If Joe hadn't got hurt, I think it was your senior year, Joe. You got hurt in a Thomas Jefferson game. I think you guys
Yeah.
made a big run. Probably one of the first to win in the UIL.
Yeah, we blew
Yeah.
out.
Well, I tell you what, Kim and I, we were on a mission, weren't we, Kim?
Yeah, we were. That group of guys that we played with, all of it was committed, and we all came together and just played. I mean, as far as we were concerned, if we knew if we could stay healthy, there wasn't anybody that could beat us. And unfortunately, Joe got hurt, and we just didn't have enough time to adapt to playing without him. But we were on a mission, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, you guys, that year was an awesome year, and you went 3 years without a loss.
Yeah, amen.
So that's an achievement. All steps, the smoothest quarterback in town. Boy, I tell you, your demeanor was like you was the tallest person out there, and you couldn't get hurt.
Yes, sir.
Well, Tony,
Had a good coaching staff too doing that.
Yeah.
Real good coaching staff.
when you play around, when you play with, when you coach with the best staff, you play around some of the most talented guys, it makes it a little bit easier to hang in there and not get worried about things because, well, they knew I wasn't going to ever give up, and I knew they weren't. So we had confidence in one another. We look at each other, and all we knew is that we were just going to keep going. And if we lost, it's going to be because time ran out. We weren't going to ever quit.
He took over my absence and did a great job. A hell of a job.
Yeah, we had some fantastic assistant coaches. I played for a lot of teams. They were all good. They all had their unique personalities. They were all hard workers. They respected you. You respected them. And it was really like a family of aunts and uncles and grandfathers and dads. That's how it really was. My dad was really lucky to have this type of staff that he had. But then again, too, being how he is, hey, you gonna get the good people to go work for good people.
Right. You really did have a great staff. You had can't think of your offensive coordinator, Jackson. Is it Jackson?
Carl Jackson.
Jackson was the offensive coordinator. See, I would be walking down. I'd be down that sideline watching everything that was going on. So I kind of knew what was going on. But guys, Joe, now that you're retired from football, and you've been retired for a while, and you was on the 1983 or the 84 championship. What year that you won the Super Bowl with the Washington Redskins?
82, won in 82 and lost in 83.
And 3, right. So you know what it's like to go to the big show.
Yep.
And I remember one night back in I can't remember, but back in '69 or '70, I'll never forget. No, I'm sorry, a little later than that. And I was sitting across the room. I was sitting on the sofa with Bubba Smith, and I asked Bubba. I said, Bubba, what was the biggest game that you ever played in? And he said, the Super Bowl. It's like no other. It's like no other game. Did you experience that, Joe? Little Joe.
Well, you know it's a big game because you are the world champion. You are the best team on the planet. You get a big ring. You get a bonus. So you know it is, and you're the only game on that particular day. Everybody else is just down to two teams. And I'd have to say, it is the ultimate. A lot of guys, get a chance to play and they don't get to a Super Bowl. I was lucky to be in the right place at the right time, to go to two. Didn't win but one of them, but
You got a
it is a
ring.
big deal.
But guys,
Yep.
I'm not going to keep you. I know it's getting late. And Coach, thank you for accepting my invitation. Uh, and we're, we're here in the Golden Triangle still talks about you and your boy just like it was just yesterday. And I want to thank you so much for what you have done for the city of Port Arthur and the Triangle. And we want to just honor you and give you your props while you're still here with us. And hope to hope to see you again on the show. How about that? So,
Anytime.
Joe, man, thank you again. Arthur has left us. I thought he was going to ask you few questions. I guess I talked to him enough. He's already left. But
Oh,
Francis,
he'll call me and ask me. It's all right.
yeah, yeah. But we're going to do this again. We've got a lot of comments. I can probably we have a chance to go through uh, all the questions I've asked. But I thank you guys again, Ken. Man, I tell you, man, a lot of folks don't know when you be talking about what they want to hit old good old days. You experienced it, son.
Yeah, yeah. It's been great, man. And the beautiful thing is that I got to brag a lot about the Golden Triangle, the competition, the people, the support that the schools, especially the African American schools, got. And one of them will win as well. So it has been a pleasure, and it's a great opportunity for me to say thank you to the Golden Triangle for their support for all of it.
Coach, you have
Hey,
any last
Mr. Renfro,
Arthur?
Mr. Renfro, this is Arthur Lee. Hey, I'm gonna have to break loose, but can I have 1 minute to say something real quick, please?
Sure did. I was looking for you.
Okay. Hey, I want to first of all say that old saying that the fruit don't fall far from the tree. I've had an opportunity to get a chance to know Joe quite well, and he called me his little brother. And I see where everybody get a chance to see Joe and Ken as football players, but I've been blessed to see Joe as a person, and I think it outweighs him as a football player, and that's saying a whole lot. And I'm grateful. I've had the opportunity to get a chance to see Coach Washington, and like I say, he loves his family. Joe loves his family. He loves his mom, his sister that's no longer with us. I've learned more from Joe as a person than I have as a football player. So I just want to leave you all with that. Ken and he always talk about how great you are. So I'm blessed to be a part of you all. And thank you very much for inviting me to this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Arthur.
God
Hey,
bless.
Joe, I want you to before we go, kind of tell the people what are you doing now. I know you with the athletic department you're back at the University of Oklahoma, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
and
you,
just been there for a long time, and I was hired, when Stoops was there, and Stoops, Coach Stoops, who's just now been inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. He welcomed me back as he did Coach Switzer when he first took the job, and allowed me to travel, with the team. Been on the sideline, address the players, and he shows the film on all the old players that have come before them. And he always tell them, he said, if you think you bad, we got a whole bunch of bad ones that came before you. So they didn't create bad. And he just allowed me to be a part and really just reinforce, the platform that, they were trying to initiate and make sure that these kids can follow.
Awesome. Francis, you got any lasting words?
I do. I just would like to say that it's been an honor and a privilege to be a part of this podcast with such an esteemed set of individuals. So thank you guys so much for your contributions to our community and also what you stand for. So very gracious. Thank you.
Hey, Coach, I want to let you know that I thank you for your contributions to football and how you raised your two sons, your children, and also Mrs. Washington for doing a great job raising you guys. And you really is a item here in the Golden Triangle, and we still talk about you and your boys, and it's just great to have to have you guys on here and let everybody know that how you're doing and see that you're doing well, and more great things are going to happen. But we thank you again for everybody for joining us. And by the way, I'm going to give Coach Washington his last words. Coach,
Say that again, Chief Tony.
I just want to know if you have any lasting words, Coach.
Listen, thank you for this opportunity. And you mentioned about those two boys. That's what I tried to do at Bay City, is treat those kids like they were my boys. And
Right.
Coach, a big friend.
Well,
The opportunity.
thank you again, Coach. Thank you again, Ken and Joe. And God bless. We got to go, but all is well.
Thank you for
Thanks for
watching
having me.
Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. Be sure to like and subscribe to all Knowledge is Power social media pages.
Well,
Yeah, we still on.